Welcome to episode 33 of the Tailoring Talk Show with me, your host, Roberto Revilla. I'm a bespoke tailor, menswear designer, and owner of Roberto Revilla London Suit and Shirt Makers. This is the podcast where you drop in for the threads, but often leave with something quite unexpected. If you haven't already, please support the show by subscribing. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please help me out by leaving a rating and a review. On today's episode, I'm joined all the way from Utah by someone who is guaranteed to make your day a whole lot brighter. She's a motivational speaker and trainer with a particular focus on all-round well-being. Overlapping this, she's been a successful realtor for over 15 years. And on top of that, she's the host of Heidi's LemonAid Stand podcast, where she interviews people who have taken life's lemons and made them into lemonade. She is passionate about helping others not only find their perfect home, but also find peace and happiness. Tailoring Talkers, please welcome the wonderful Heidi Alldredge to the Tailoring Talk Show. Heidi, how are you?
I am so great and so happy to be here talking to you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining me. Now, the first thing, right? You have grandchildren, and I don't understand how that is possible. Seriously, because you're so young.
Well, it's possible when you have children and then your children have children. That's how you become a grandparent. It's awesome. Oh, yeah. It's beautiful.
You're right. That probably is the way
that is how it works.
Happens.
Yeah. No, I am a young grandma. My kids are young too. Yeah. So it's been great. I am my oldest grandchild will be 5 in a couple of months. So. And then I have a new grandchild due next week. So I'm excited. So I'll have 5 grandchildren by next week. So
congratulations. Yay. That's so awesome. Great for them that they have so what do they call you? Do they call you grandma or Grammy or I know
they actually call me Gaga.
Gaga.
They call me Gaga, And it was something that my first grandchild, well, I guess he was my first grandson. So my second grandchild, they were on their way to my house. He was about 10 months old, not really talking much, just kind of saying a couple. And my daughter said, oh, we're almost to grandma's house. And he says, Gaga. So ever since then, I've been Gaga. And my son-in-law's like, do you think he'll still call you Gaga when he's a teenager? Because it sounds like, of course he will. And they do. They call me Gaga, and they call my husband Opa. That is the Dutch name for grandpa. So he goes by Opa and I go by Gaga. And it is the highlight of my life. I seriously could not be happier to have grandchildren. They make life worth living, I swear. They make it all worth it. They are so perfect and wonderful. And we get them every Friday night. So we get to babysit them so mom and dad can go on date night. They live very close to us within minutes of our house. So we party. We have dance parties every Friday night and eat pizza. All these little babies.
That just sounds like so much fun. Your grandkids are so lucky.
I was very lucky grandchild too. My grandma was my best friend and kind of more like a mom to me. And she was my example of how you can just take advantage of that time and have that close relationship. So it was always a goal of mine to live near my grandkids and just have them be my little best friends. And so I'm the lucky one.
Yeah, no, totally. And how have things been over there the last couple of years with COVID and and so on? Yeah. Because over here in London, we're pretty much back to normal. We even had a train strike, like the public transport system here just shut down completely, which is a normal thing during normal times. So as much as this week has been a huge inconvenience for most people in my city, we're also kind of things are kind of back to normal now. How are things for you over there?
Isn't that so funny when the bad things are, okay, now people are complaining again. We're fine. We're back to normal, right? You know what? I was just thinking that today. I'm like, it feels like it's kind of over without much of a big production about it. It just kind of fizzled out over here. Like in the past few weeks, people just kind of no more mask mandates and people are just kind of back to normal life. Things are all open. Everything's, I don't know, it's the weirdest thing. And I was just talking to my husband. He finally went this week and was able to go get everything out of his office from 2 years ago when they shut everything down. And he had to move home to work from home. And it's been 2 years since he's been to his office, and he finally this week was able to go and get his desk and his books and his decorations and everything because the office isn't no longer in need. And so I kind of like the change in a way that, we're empty nesters and he's been at home for 2 years and it looks like he can permanently work from home. So I love that. But I think people have adjusted now. And of course, the people are still getting it. People are still sick. I don't want to discount that at all, but it's really hasn't been the big state of emergency that we've been in for 2 years. So it's nice.
Yeah.
Breathe a little bit easier now.
Exactly. And then all the British stereotypes are basically coming back. I think you guys have this perception of us of, basically spending all our time with pints in our hands and so on. And I was talking to one of my clients earlier today who is at one of the big pub operators. They own a lot of different pubs and chains and stuff like that and hospitality. So it's been a really tough couple of years for them. But he was like, as soon as restrictions went, things were back to normal. Everything just, the taps were flowing and people were out enjoying themselves again and so on. So on a bright note, it's been really, really, really good to see.
Yeah. And we're back to normal that way too. Our biggest problem is we don't have enough workers for like the restaurants and the places for people to gather. All those people had to, I don't know where they went. But there are no daytime workers that are willing to come and work those kind of jobs. And so there's a desperate need everywhere you go. It's now hiring everywhere you go.
Yeah.
And there's just nobody to work. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's been the hardest adjustment is there's lots of signs when you go in a restaurant, like, we could be at full capacity if we had waitresses, but we don't. So you're going to have to wait an hour till our 2 waitresses can come and help you. So that's been the hardest part right now is there's just not enough people willing to work or able to work to help us, get the economy going again. So that's been a big adjustment.
We've had the same problem over here.
Have you? Okay.
Kind of started going back out to restaurants, and my wife and I, because customer service is such a key component of what we do as our day-to-day business. So we really, really notice and feel it when something's kind of off somewhere. And so going back to restaurants and things, because we've lost a lot of staff over here because of Brexit, right? A lot of Europeans went back and so on. And so there is a shortage, but our homegrown people that work in hospitality I can probably say it because none of them listen to this podcast, but they're not quite as switched on, maybe.
At all. I know exactly. Yes.
So
I know exactly what you're saying.
We went to a restaurant the other day and it was like, there's a sign that says, please wait here to be seated. So obviously we waited there to be seated. And they all just kept walking past us, just looking at us. And then just kind of carrying on with what they were doing, and then, on their phones, on Instagram and stuff, and, all that. And in the end, I just kind of stepped past the velvet rope and I just said, do I find my own table, or is anyone going to seat us? What's going on? Oh, yeah, fine. Sorry, are you here to eat? I was like, no, I'm here to do anything but eat in an eating establishment.
I'm here to watch you go on Instagram. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
So there we go.
So true. Yeah, that is exactly how it is here. Yeah, you get the bottom people that are willing to work that you just have to deal with when you go to places. You're just like, wow, the customer service. Don't even worry about customer service. It doesn't exist right now. So they're just glad to have a body there. It's
exactly.
Like, wow. Yeah. So we definitely are suffering with that here as well.
Yeah. But then, you take a negative and it means that there's a big opportunity out there for something. So, but I'd rather this than what we've been through the last couple of years, for sure.
I'm grateful we can even go out to eat now. So definitely not complaining about that. Yeah,
exactly. So your podcast is Heidi's LemonAid Stand, and I love it. First of all, I'm a huge fan. It's each episode you have a different guest on. Now, tell me something, because you were doing the LemonAid Stand radio show a while ago
in 1999. So just a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
21 years ago. Yeah.
Any time reference, we subtract 2 years for the 2 years we lost due to COVID, right? So it was only
right.
17, 18
it was only
years ago.
20 years ago. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So did the podcast start out of that? So, because I know maybe some of the early episodes were from those original recordings.
Yes, you're right. Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I did. Yeah, back in 1999, I started a radio talk show called the LemonAid Stand, and I did it for a year. And I ended up being able to get pregnant with my like miracle. We went through infertility for years. And so I remember on my last radio show, I'm like, okay, I'm due to have a baby in 2 weeks. So I'm taking a break. I'll be back. And then 20 years later, I started my podcast. So I took a little bit of a break. So it was awesome. The radio show was amazing. I met amazing people. And then during 2020, when things were really getting just sad, when people were really struggling. And I thought, I think it's a good time to bring back the LemonAid Stand, and now with podcasting. And so that's kind of how it started, was just to put my old radio shows out there so people could hear them. But they're such bad recordings back in the 90s with cassette tapes and really staticky bad recordings. And then my husband's like, well, why don't you find new people to talk to then? And I was like, oh. So it has been almost a year and a half now. I've done 150 interviews in the past year and a half of amazing, amazing people. And so I've been really blessed to be able to start the LemonAid Stand again. Yeah. So that's where it kind of came from.
And the title, I mean, it struck a chord with me when I first came across it because, you have that saying that some grown up in your life gives you at some point when you're younger, saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Yeah. And I feel like mine almost actually pretty much my entire life, it's just been lemon after lemon, just chucked at my head. And I'm sure I'm not alone. There are plenty of people that feel the same way, because I guess when you really look at it, life is kind of like that. It's actually not a bed of roses, and it's not easy. And you're constantly going to come up against challenges, and there may never be a moment in some people's lives. And again, I'm just going through a period where I'm feeling like that now. Just every time I think I've just overcome one thing, I take a breath for like literally just a hot minute, and then all of a sudden something else just hits. Yep. And your shoulders slump. Yeah. And you start to kind of think, oh God, I can't do this anymore. And then somewhere you just summon up just a spark of energy or whatever to just get up and just put one foot forward in front of the other and just keep going. And that's the thing I love about your, because you release an episode on Monday and Thursdays. And that's the thing I love about shows like yours, is that they just help just when you need it the most. And so I actually want to take the opportunity while I've got you to say thank you for that. And I will be continuously recommending that people subscribe to your podcast, probably for the next hour or so and beyond. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It definitely, you are describing life perfectly, where it's just one thing after another. And I used to say, life isn't fair, because I felt like it was constantly lemons coming. And my dad would always say, life isn't fair. And I'm like, but I'm going to make it fair, and he's like, life is not fair. And I just learned recently that we actually wouldn't want it to be fair, because as hard as things are, there is so many great things. But you can always look at someone else and what they're struggling with and be like, oh, I'm glad I don't have that problem. But if life was fair, we'd have to have everyone's problems. Everyone's good and everyone's bad. And we don't want that. So I've learned that maybe it's okay, life isn't fair. And maybe my problems are really catered to me and what I need to learn and grow from. And so we need to just embrace it. We need to embrace those challenges and those hard times and let them mold us into something better. And that's where my LemonAid Stand is. It's even spelled LemonAid, AID, because it's kind of, I look at it as like Band-Aid, or like something to give aid, to help, to uplift, to inspire. And that's kind of the whole point of it, is to talk about the hard times, but what we've done because of them. And people usually share, well, they always say they wouldn't take it back. That hard challenge, that terrible, tragic thing that happened to them, they're grateful for it now. It's brought them to the point they're at. It's taught them what they have. It's brought people into their lives that they wouldn't have known, or whatever the gift has been from it. And I love that people can share that even as tragic as it was, they wouldn't change it. They'd do it again to learn what they did. So it's been a gift to me to interview these people and hear their stories. I've been so lucky to be able to meet people.
Yeah. I was really sad to hear, probably the biggest lemon that had been tossed at you at quite a young age when you lost your father.
Yes.
And you were barely out of your teens. I mean, you were 16 at the time.
I was 16. Yes. Yeah. I was going through a hard time myself, actually, and had considered taking my own life for a couple of years. I was made fun of so bad about the way I looked that I thought, I need to just do the world a favor so people won't have to look at my face anymore. And so I kind of decided, yeah, this is the best solution, is to not have to have people look at me anymore. And luckily I had friends and family that were kind of encouraging without knowing it, just kind of like, I'll see you tomorrow, or I'll call you tomorrow, or I need help with this, or different things that kind of gave me that little bit to keep living for each day. Just kind of like, oh, well, I can't die tonight because I got to help this person with a school project tomorrow. And, each day would be like, oh, I can't die tonight. My boyfriend needs me tomorrow, or whatever it was, that I just kept going that one more day. And then suddenly 2 days after Thanksgiving, the police came to our door and told us that our dad had just taken his life. And I was 16 years old. And I remember sitting there like, how did this happen, first of all? And how did he get so to that point, that I was at? I didn't even notice that my dad was that same way, that same hopeless kind of feeling. And in his suicide note, he said that basically everyone would be better off now without him there, which was the exact things that I had been thinking. And I remember going, that's not the solution. That's not the answer. That didn't help anything. That didn't solve any problems. That made everything way worse. And so to have our dad die, and then I remember going back to school on Monday. That was Saturday. And I went back to high school on Monday. And I remember I could just suddenly see people. Like I wasn't so consumed with myself and feeling sorry for myself and how ugly I was. And I could see people, and I'm walking down the hall and I'm looking in people's eyes, and I can feel their pain. I can feel the burdens they're carrying. And I saw them as human beings, as people that are just trying to get through life and struggling with their own lemons. And I thought, wow, where have all these people, have these always been here? Because I was so consumed with myself. And it just changed my life then. And I decided to kind of stop being so concerned about me and poor me and what I'm going through, and really just look to others and see that others are suffering. And maybe I could help, and maybe we could work together, and maybe we could support each other. And it just turned into a beautiful thing my last couple of years of high school. And I just loved it. It was a great experience for me. And I ended up having a lot of opportunities in high school and made a lot of friends and totally changed my life. It was great. So that is kind of a big change in my life that came from a tragic thing, a lemons to lemonade. And if I could make my dad's death worth anything, it made me want to be a better person and to care about other people. I certainly didn't want another suicide on my hands. I felt like, what could I have done different? You go through all that guilt of, what could have been different, or why didn't anybody care? And why didn't anybody know? All this stuff that you think. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to be better. I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to care about other people better. And it's been a beautiful life. This was 30-something years ago, 33 years ago, my dad died. So I've been trying to live a great legacy for him, to be proud of me and give a tribute to him as well, of the good things that he did in his life too, and what a great dad he was. So that's kind of where that went. But then, 10 years after he died, I found myself kind of spiraling back into that why me again kind of thing, and feeling sorry for myself. I was now married. I now had 2 kids, but we tried for several years to have another child and nothing, went through all that. And I'm sure a lot of it was hormones, but I just was really in a bad place. And I was on antidepressants. I just could not get past myself. I just was really struggling. And to the point where I had a friend tell me, like, we'd try to exercise together every morning. And she said, I can't be around you anymore. You are too negative. You're too much of a downer. You ruin my day. I just can't be friends with you anymore. And that kind of wakes you up to like, who am I? Like, I'm not that person. I don't want to be this person that nobody wants to be around. Like, that's terrible. And that's when I kind of started looking around again. It was kind of that shock again from 10 years before when my dad died of like, where have I brought myself to again? Like, now I'm all consumed with myself again and feeling like life isn't worth living because I can't have another kid. Like, that's so selfish. And so it was such a bad place. And that's when the LemonAid Stand Radio Show started, is when I finally started looking outside myself and seeing other people and be like, oh, wow, well, their kid was killed, you know, I don't have that problem. Or, you know, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, you know, because of people that are driving drunk. And they started this organization, and Bikers Against Child Abuse, you know, and just different organizations that are started because people dealt with really horrific things. And so I was like, I need to know more. I need to talk to these people. So that's when I decided to go on the radio and start interviewing people, because back then there wasn't really like the internet and podcasts and things like that. So the radio was the best way to get. There was Oprah. So you couldn't get on TV to be with Oprah. So then I started my own show. So yeah, it helped a lot. Like I said, I had that miracle pregnancy during that radio show. And I really feel like a lot of it was because I stopped thinking about myself. And I was learning so much from other people and being so inspired by people that I just finally wasn't so consumed with how sad I was. And it was a beautiful thing. It was a great life.
It's amazing that, because I think when you've been through that and you've been on the edge of ending it all, right, yourself, and I've been there, because when I grew up, you know, my parents are both still with us today. Although we only reunited a couple of years ago, we've been estranged for quite some time. I mean, over a decade, in fact. And so growing up, it was really hard because my father lost his mother when he was probably about the same age as you. And that obviously had hit him really, really hard. And being the eldest brother in, you know, this is back in Pakistan, he suddenly had to assume responsibility for his brothers and his sister. And then his father, my grandfather, was in the army. And I'm kind of hesitating telling this story because I've only heard snippets of this from my mum, and then my mum has only heard snippets of this from whatever my dad has chosen to share, right? But I know that my grandfather remarried and he left Pakistan, came to England and had a whole new family. And my father left to go and find his dad with nothing in his pocket, you know, the classic migrant story. Got here, kind of got in with a couple of people who became his best friends at the embassy. And then they were doing kind of working jobs and stuff, but there was no real space for him with his father because his father had this whole new life. Yep. But then I think my dad, so he eventually meets my mom and then they have me. And I don't remember many good times as a child because my father was a disciplinarian. And so without going into too much detail, you can imagine, you know, what my life was like, right? I put the slightest foot wrong and it was, you know, beaten up and all the rest of it. And as an adult, I don't blame him for that. But at the time, as a child, I didn't understand it. And so as time went on, my sense of what little self-worth I had got eroded away, chipped and chipped and chipped until it got to the point when I was in my teens where there was almost nothing left. And then I thought, what's the point of me being here? I'm not wanted. So I might as well just end it. The problem I had is no matter what I tried to do to take my own life, I kept surviving. Yeah. So whether I cut myself, didn't work, I would sort of wake up from consciousness and unconsciousness and still be here. Jumping out of a window, still to this day, I've not broken a single bone in my body. I know how I've done it. I just couldn't kill myself. I mean, to turn this into a joke, it's like, when you see in these movies and like, the villain is trying to kill the hero, and it's like, why don't you just die? And it was the same thing with me. It's like, why can't I just, get rid of myself? And so I kind of, unlike you, you started looking outward and looking at other people and seeing what was going on around you. That didn't happen to me until I hit adulthood. So my whole kind of childhood, teenage years and so on, I look back on that with so much regret, because it was so inward looking and so focused on me. I didn't see what was going on outside. And so it was very hard for me to maintain relationships and friendships. And thank God that I've managed to reunite with some of those childhood friends today as an adult. And some of us have found each other again. And I have even more appreciation for them because of what we missed. But I just wish I'd had just some additional help. And I think you starting up the radio show and then coming back to it all these years later to then start the podcast in this new era, for any kids, young adults that are out there that are going through anything like what I experienced, people like you are just that parachute that those people need. And so, your father would be so proud of you. And I'm sure he is. And I thank you for that. I just wish that I'd had the LemonAid Stand when I was a kid, but I have it now, so it's fine. So, taking all of that experience, so that you have your habits of happiness that you teach.
Yes.
And you have your 21 habits, and there's a really great infographic, and I don't know if you drew that.
My
it's
husband,
got all the.
Yeah.
Oh, really? He's
Yes.
awesome. He's
Yes.
such a great little artist there.
Yes, my husband would do that. So when I go and teach, he stands behind me and draws the pictures of what I'm teaching about. And it's so cute because I think it helps people with a visualization and to learn the habits a little bit better. But yeah, he's an artist. He did all my artwork on my website and everything. He's great.
What's his day job?
So talented. He's an artist. Yeah.
Oh, he is an artist.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, he finally is. He was a school teacher for years, and then just kind of moved through his career that way. But now he works for a company and he draws their training material. So he does amazing things. So he's very talented. I love it.
So what I did is the little kind of banner you got across on your website, I'll put the link in the show notes.
Okay.
So what I did is I screenshotted it and then I printed it, and it's behind my monitor on my desk.
Oh,
so
wow.
I look at it all the time.
That's amazing. You're probably better at it than I am right now then.
Yeah. No, I'm learning every single day. But yeah, I mean, that's
because I've kind of narrowed it down to like 5 now instead of the 21. So I focus on 5 now in my daily and what I teach too. So it's great.
Yeah. I mean, getting into clothing for me was one way of, because I love taking care of people.
Yeah,
and,
me too.
Clothing was just it just happened to be the thing that I stumbled into to be able to do it. I'd always, I'd studied art and design and so on. I was always into fashion when I was younger because mum and dad couldn't afford to. I've been 6 feet tall since I was 11 years old. So can you imagine when you've got 2 parents that are struggling to make ends meet, having to buy clothes for me all the time was just a nightmare. So my dad used to kind of just give his old clothes from the 70s to my mum and tell her just put him in those. So like, can you imagine a kid in the 80s, right, where it was all very kind of straight leg pants and stuff, and there's me kind of going in these huge bell bottoms.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh,
I know,
that's
right?
Terrible.
So I used to just get picked on and kicked around all the time.
Yeah, me
and so
too.
I started to just adjust clothes as much as I could, just out of necessity and out of pure survival than anything else. Like, I've got to try and make these pants look narrower. I can't go in there with my feet, completely disappear behind these huge flares and stuff, because otherwise it was just hell physically as well as mentally.
Wow.
But anyway, so it was funny that I eventually fell into clothing again, and for me, it's just great, especially with my clients who maybe don't have as much self-confidence and so on, just to see the change in them. And then gradually over years, because I've still got clients, I mean, I've been doing this for nearly 20 years now. I've still got clients from 20 years ago who've stayed with me all that time.
Wow.
And you get to really, really know these people. And what you get to realize when you're working with people who are, by and large, we would perceive them to be very successful people, is that they're human. Like, they are just normal flesh and blood. They came into the world the same way that we all did. They're just human beings. They're just normal people.
Yeah.
And they all have a lot of stuff going on.
Yes.
Behind the facade.
Yes, exactly.
And,
yes.
Sometimes I find myself having to be a really good listener. To kind of go in, and I've got new clothes ready for them, and I'm all excited, and it's like, I'm going to show you blah, blah, blah. And they're just like, yeah. And I'm like, are you okay? It's like something seems off.
Yeah.
You don't need to talk about it if you don't want to, but I'm just checking on you. And then I could find myself there for half an hour, 45 minutes, just listening to everything that's been going on with them. Because they don't feel, because they have to put on such a persona for their day job, they don't feel they can talk to anyone else about it. So
I love that you're doing that. See, you're giving that service. I love that, because that's what I do. I do it with food. Food is my service, and like clothes is yours. It's like, that's where I feel like I can really like help people and try to make their day, and like either working at a restaurant or baking at home or doing something with food. And so I connect with you so much with that. And you can just really look at people and be like, are you okay? You can just kind of tell like what's going on in their lives. Something's heavy right now. And we're all human. I always say, I would love to, if we could carry a sign around with us that's like, I'm hurting, or I'm dealing with this today, or my mom just died, or whatever your sign could say, that you could walk around and hold it. And so people could just be extra gentle with you, extra kind. But we'd all have a sign. And so we should just treat each other that way to begin with, because we just have no idea what people are carrying and why they're acting the way they are. They could just be dealing with a lot of heavy stuff that we wouldn't want to know anyway.
Yeah.
But I love how you said that your clients are just kind of more high-end people and kind of have this persona they have to have at their day job, but then they're still a human being. They still put their pants on like the rest of us do. Because I have a brother that's a rock star, and it's been the same thing for me too, because I'm like, it's just my brother. Like, we have Thanksgiving dinner together. Like, he comes over and hangs out, but then he's on the stage performing in front of people, and it's just kind of ruined it for me. I'm like, wait, you mean all performers are just brothers? I'm like, that's so boring. So it's like, they're just people, and they have lives, and he's carrying the weight of his father's suicide too. Like he's doing this and up there performing for people, and they don't know what he's going through at home. And so it's just fascinating to me to realize that it doesn't matter. It's just your job. Like the rest of us have jobs, and they still have feelings. They still have things to carry. So that's why I love the habits of happiness. Is there something we can do when we're in those rough days or those hard times? There's something that we can do to pivot that little bit, or just change that track of thinking. And so just kind of having some of those like on hand to be like, okay, I can do this today. Yeah. And just to hold on for one more minute, one more hour, one more day.
Yeah, that's it. I get people who suddenly will hear, maybe via something on social media or whatever. This is a whole other subject. And we'll come on to that in a second, because I do want to ask you about that. Where they'll see that I'm working with a celebrity. I don't work for many celebrities, because the problem with celebrities is their agents want me to do stuff for free. And, I always remember that line from I think it's The Dark Knight, the one with Heath Ledger, where he says, if you have a talent or whatever, don't do it for free. If you're good at something, don't do it for free. But the celebs that I do look after, again, I guess from my point of view, it's easier to see them as human beings and not see them as something that needs to be put up on a pedestal, no matter how
Right.
amazing they are.
Yeah.
Because I get so
Just their
close to
job.
them, and yeah, I get so close to them, and I get so personal, and also I see all the faults and stuff because part of my job is putting them in their best light. So I know when one of my clients is carrying a few extra pounds and has got a little bit of, love handles going on, but nobody else sees that, because when you put photos on social media, they're all wearing clothes and editing and all that kind of stuff. But they're all going through the same, kind of thing, whether it's, depression because of something that is happening in their lives right now, or just a very simple thing like, oh God, I'm so tired and I'm really stressed and I'm just eating all the wrong foods that I shouldn't be eating. And I know that I need blah, blah, blah. Same stuff that we all kind of go through. But that brings me on to social media, because in this day and age, especially when you think about younger people, I mean, even people my age, look, I have to be on, I don't have to be on Instagram, but I'm on Instagram now. Our company account is taken off. My personal account has just got a placeholder on the last post, which basically says, do not follow me here because this account is going to be shut down soon when I figured out how to do it. Follow me over here. And then it just has the links to the podcast and the company account. But then you can find yourself just getting trapped. So, I will go on once a day just to check for any messages and so on from people. But then I'll find myself just scrolling through lots and lots of stuff. And the thing that you notice is that very rarely, some people are getting better at doing it, but very rarely do you see anyone posting about what's really going on. I try to do it in my stories. So my feed is all about clothes and clients. But then in my stories, it's very little about clothes. It's more about, I've just finished, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm out with my dogs. I'm in my happy place, but it's been a really tough week and my head feels like it's full of cotton wool and so on. Because I'm just trying to show people that it isn't all glamorous. There's real stuff kind of going on behind the scenes. So many people are putting out the best versions of themselves. And it was on one of your I think it was a recent episode where you were talking to someone, and I can't remember his name, forgive me. But he said something really pertinent, which was that we all know the worst versions of ourselves because we have to live with ourselves every single day. And when you go onto social media, you're then seeing and comparing yourself with what people are putting out to be the best versions of themselves. So you have this complete opposite end of the spectrum, which then when it sort of translates into how it affects your mental state is possibly the worst thing ever.
Yep.
And I just wonder if in your kind of day-to-day work, when you've been asked to talk and so on, how much social media is coming up in that context and how you help people to try and see social media or deal with it in a different way.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. We do. We see our worst and we compare it to everyone else's best, and we have to stop doing that. And so I think the more we talk about it and realize that we are doing that, I think it helps to kind of look at that reality check of like, okay, yeah, I had a friend post something the other day that was, it was last year. It was so great. She posted a picture of like this beautiful dessert she had made. It was all zoomed in on the dessert. And then the next picture was zoomed out of her counter and all the ingredients and the flour and the messes and the piles of stuff, the measuring cups, everything's all over the place. But when you zoom in on that dessert, it is perfect. And the countertop looks nice and clean and beautiful. But that was my favorite picture. And I think of that all the time. And I tell people, I'm like, we're just zooming in on people's lives. You could zoom out and see the big hot mess. You wouldn't be feeling so bad about yourself. Everybody has a hot mess, And so it's just more like just realizing that people are putting their best out there and just helping people to realize that you're comparing it and to just stop. Like you can't, and just be more real. I think we need to be more real on social media. And so I think that's why I love the LemonAid Stand is people are airing their worst and hardest, most challenging times. but then they follow up with how great it is now and what they're doing now because of it. So that helps a lot too. So we're still showing the zoomed in dessert and we're zooming out to show the mess. So I think that's important to do that. Yeah. Just know that it's not true. What we see on social media isn't true.
Yeah. Heidi, what is happiness?
Oh,
because it's a question
that is so
right
awesome.
you know,
That's such a great question.
what is success, what is happiness? Because I get asked this all the time, and I look at people and I'm just like, I don't know. I think it's different things to different people, right? I mean, some people's definition of success then leads to what their definition of happiness is. Like, you know, if I was making X amount of pounds or dollars a year, then I would have enough money to be able to do whatever I wanted, and then I would be happy. And for other people, you know, that's not what happiness is. Happiness is the little things. So is there a definition, or, you know, am I kind of right when I'm just knee jerking at people, looking at them like they're weird?
No, I love that. You know, that is one thing I've learned over the past 30, 40, almost 50 years of my life, is that I was always the I'll be happy when kind of person. That's how I grew up. That's how I lived my life. And I did this even when I met my husband. You know, I'll be happy when I can go to college. I'll be happy when I have a career. I'll be happy when I get married. I'll be happy when I have kids. I'll be happy when I buy a house. But then you find out, like, okay, I'll be happy when the kids grow up. I'll be happy when I get a new house. You know, I'll be happy when I change careers. Like, it's never enough. Like, you're always trying to search for that happiness at the next thing. And that's an I'll be happy when attitude. And so what I've learned is happiness is like a way to travel. Happiness is just a way to just be. It isn't dependent on anything. It isn't dependent on where you live. It isn't dependent on how much money you have, how good your kids are, how cute your spouse is. Happiness isn't dependent on anything. It's just a way to travel. It's a vehicle. It's a way to get to the next destination. So it's just a way to be. And so I love that you asked that, because happiness is whatever anybody decides it is, but really it's just a way to live. It's a state of being. And it's good to have goals. Like, I'm all for, like, you know, have a goal, to have something. But what we have to realize is that when we have these goals, we think life's going to be so much better, or we'll be successful, or we'll be happy, or whatever. There's something tied to that. You know, I'll lose weight and then I'll be happy, right? I'll lose weight and then I'll be successful, or then I'll be able to accomplish all the things I want to do once I have this goal. And you forget about all that time between then and now that you're missing out on. But then you get that goal and you're still the same you. You still feel the same way. You're still like not happy. You're still like, okay, well, now I'll be happy when I get this thing now. And you're always searching for it. And what I've learned is that I think that instead of having that goal to lose weight, or whatever your goal is, we have to realize why it is that, like, dissect it down. Like, what is the actual feeling we want with that goal? Or even, like you said, money earlier, you know, like, I'll be happy when I make all this money. And then you make all this money and you're still not happy, or you're still like, oh, now I want more money, you know? And it's just, you just want to keep going. It's never enough. And what you have to realize is that feeling you want. So it might not actually be the money you want. When you say, I have this goal to make all this money, or I have this goal to lose the weight, what's the feeling you're going for? Not the actual number. There's a feeling you want. And so as we focus more in on that, and you'll find that you're having it and you're not even noticing it. So if you want this money, why do you want this money? You want it to feel secure. You want it so you can buy all these things. You want it so you can what? You know, what is your reason for the goal? And then focusing on that instead of the actual dollar amount. You want to feel secure. Well, what else is it that you're missing in your life that you're not feeling secure, that you think money will bring you, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's important as we look at things that we're achieving and trying to want. And, oh, I'll be successful when. I actually opened up a fortune cookie last week and it says, your success is inevitable. That's what the fortune cookie said. And I'm like, well, absolutely. You know, I'm like, I know that. I took a picture of it, posted it. I'm like, yeah, it is. And then I went, wait a second. What if I'm already successful? What does success look like? You know, what am I measuring is success? Is success what? What is that? And for each person, you can ask them, what does success mean to you? And they'll all have different answers. So yeah, my success is inevitable because I'm already there, you know,
Yeah.
like it's already happening. I'm already successful in my own mind of what I've decided success looks like. I'm there.
Is he talking about focusing on feelings rather than material things or money? Is so profound, right? It makes so much sense. But when you say it, it's like for a lot of people, that would be a huge paradigm shift, because growing up, you're always, like, you need to earn enough money to have a house and to have a car and to be able to send your kids to college and all that kind of stuff, right? And to have this and have that and do this and do that and go there and go here. And in sales, I remember, and I don't know if you experienced this as a realtor, but when you go through sales training and they talk about setting goals, all the goals are orientated around how much money you are going to earn to be able to drive a Porsche, own a house in that neighborhood, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
Never, ever is there a section in your goal notebook for how do you want to feel? How do you want to live your life? Who do you want to be surrounded by, and so on? Which in actual fact, when you think about it, right on cue, he does this every time. When you think about it, it's the moments that count, and it's the moments where you feel. The moments aren't about, nobody ever cradled an iPad and said, this makes me so happy and I feel so fulfilled, right?
Right.
But you'll cradle your child, or you'll hold your partner in that moment, or your dog who has just arrived. I'm so sorry, Heidi, you're going to have to meet him. Listeners are rolling their eyes right now. Yeah.
Feelings. I love that. It's about feeling. Yeah. And even with real estate, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was I would sit in these meetings of like goals and how many clients are you going to work with and how many sales are you going to have? And I'm just like, what if I have my goal be how many good reviews I could get, that my clients are happy with their experience. Right. And so if I focus on, I want so many positive reviews this year, and focus on my clients and what their needs are and helping them find what's best for them, then they're going to be happy. They'll give me a great review. And so that's the way I can reach my goal. You get more clients, they'll get family and friends. So yeah, my goal isn't to sell 50 houses this year. My goal is to get 50 happy reviews. And so you just kind of change it, because that's all I can control, right? I can only control like how my clients' experience goes working with me. If they buy a house, fine. If they don't, fine. I want them to be glad they chose me to help them. Yeah. And so that's why I kind of try to look at goals that way. It's like, what's my end goal? Like, do I really want money, or do I just want that security? Do I just want that freedom? What do I want that money will bring me? Because you could have thousands in the bank and still want more. So it's not the money.
Yeah. I think it's
what you think it'll bring you.
Is switching it around so that your intent, like my intent is always to help people in whatever way I can. Now, obviously people come to me because they have clothing or image issues. But if I can help solve that pain point that they have and get them to a happy place, everything that flows from that is a bonus. But my real intent when someone's in front of me, it's not transactional. It's, okay, how can I help this person? And sometimes, and I'm sure you've had it as well in business, that sometimes you realize that you're not a good fit for that person.
Absolutely.
You can't actually help them in the way that they need.
Right.
So you need to make a recommendation to someone else. But because you had that attitude, rather than just trying to take them on and take them on a ride that is not going to lead them to the destination they wanted to get to, they're still equally as grateful for that.
Absolutely. Well, and you don't want to work with someone who sucks your soul. It's just, they aren't a good fit for you. And where you're coming away feeling worse, you're like, this just isn't working for me. And there's somebody that's better suited for them too, that they can help each other. So we have to learn to just be okay with not being able to please everyone and not being able to work with everyone. So many different personalities. So let them go work with someone else who's a better fit for them, and you can have your happiness back,
Yeah.
your peace, your joy, in your soul. So it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to do it. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up too. And that is a really cute dog. It looks like a cocker spaniel.
Close. He's a working cocker spaniel.
He's beautiful. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Look
His
at that
name's
face, those
Baby.
long ears. We have the same hair, dude.
Yeah.
Look at that.
It's gotten a little bit frizzy because he was out in the rain this morning, but yeah, he's great. He's been with us for 4 years now. He's nearly 7 approximately, but he's a rescue. So he was, long story short, we were just going on a kind of vacation, and my wife just spotted him from the car. He'd been dumped on the road, had a broken leg, so we picked him up. Just had to go through a lot of hassle to try and get him back to London. But we rehabbed him. He had about 3 surgeries, so he has a lot of metal in one of his legs, but he's living a happy, normal life now.
Wow.
Wow. I don't feel sorry for him. This dog knows where he is. No. He knows that he's arrived.
He is so spoiled. He is so, I could see it in his face. He's just like, I'm the king here. Yeah. I love it.
So we've got
so
4
cute.
of them. We've got, the other one's a Cavachon, and then we have a Bengal and a Moggy, black and white cat, who's also a rescue as well. And people come to our home and they will see, like, there's a bed in every single room, and they're just like, it's so cute, your animals will have their own beds. And they're like, no, they're all his.
He's the king, you can tell.
Yeah. He isn't actually. So he's at the bottom of the pecking order as far as this lot are concerned. So, but yeah, no, he will always just pop up. I think because one of my guests a few episodes ago, Raymond Riopol, was talking about how animals, they're all about feelings. They're not about material things, apart from food. Well, food's a necessity, it's not a material thing. But they're all about feelings. They feed off our energy. And he does that. And it's like every single time I'm recording a podcast, especially on the episodes where I'm having such a great time with my guest, he always pops up because he wants to be a part of it. Yeah, he's like, I want to be in on this mood. Yeah, I love that. That's so cute. He just feels it. That's Heidi. She's amazing.
That's awesome.
I'm going to have to get her back on the
puppy.
Show. Would you come back?
I'm happy to. Yeah, of course. Anytime. I have like a lot to talk about. No, it's great. I could talk all day.
Yeah, no, I'm just conscious of time for you, but thank you so much.
Hey, I booked 2 hours, remember?
So yeah, this is true. But we're good. Honestly, you're incredible, really, and thank you so much for everything that you are doing with the LemonAid Stand to help people. Really, you're a weekly source of inspiration, daily actually, because I have the 21 happiness habits up on my wall. And I just thank you for that. Heidi, where can people find you online?
My website's Heidi's LemonAid Stand, and my Facebook is Heidi's LemonAid Stand, pretty easy. And then Instagram is just LemonAid Stand Official. So yeah, that would be awesome to connect with people. I'm always willing to hear people's stories and talk to them. And I love to connect. I love to hear people's thoughts. And thank you. I just love your light and what you're doing too. And I love your positivity and how you're trying to put such goodness out there. So thank you for the service that you are doing as well. I appreciate you a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't feel like I'm worthy in your presence, but I really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
No, we're all putting our pants on the same way. Remember, that's what we do.
Some of my clients still need to be taught how to put their pants on the right way around. But that's a story.
Okay, there's different ways to put our pants on, but we all have to get dressed. How about that example? We all have to get dressed. We're all just people trying to navigate this. You're going to shoot me down each one.
Again, yeah, there's some clients who, particularly during the pandemic, would very proudly on a Zoom call, I'd be like, oh, you actually are dressing kind of smart for your Zoom calls. That's really, really good to see. I'm so proud of you. And then they would stand up. And honestly, Heidi, some of the things I've seen, I will not share with you because I do not want to corrupt your purity, your pure soul. But yes, we are. You're right. We're all human beings. Awesome. We all go through the same kind of stuff.
We do. We go through stuff, and it's all fine.
We
We'll
need
get
to
through it.
we need to actually learn to enjoy the ride sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
Reminds me of a
Yes.
quote. Have you ever seen Along Came Polly with Ben Stiller and Jennifer Aniston?
Yes, that was a long time ago.
Oh, it's a long time
Yes.
ago,
Yeah.
but it's where he's a loss adjuster, like an insurance loss adjuster, and
Right.
she's just a complete kind of like wafting away through the world, you know, nothing ties her down, kind of, you
Right.
know,
Free
spirit,
spirit.
free
Yeah.
spirit.
Yeah.
And she has the little pet mongoose or whatever, Rodolfo, who's
Yeah.
blind, keeps bumping into things. And Ruben Pfeffer, Ben Stiller's character, his father is mute through the whole movie. And Philip Seymour Hoffman, I mean, talking about suicide, there's a tragic loss. Philip Seymour Hoffman is his best friend, who was like a child actor and was very famous in one show, and then that was it. His career was kind of over, and he pays this camera crew to follow him around and keeps telling people it's for his own true Hollywood story. And there comes a moment towards the end of the movie in the third act where suddenly Ben Stiller's father speaks for the first time and tells Philip Seymour Hoffman's character off and says, "Kid, you know, you were famous once and then it went, and you spend so much time looking backward or looking forward, but you never just stop to just enjoy the ride. Just enjoy the ride."
Right. Right. Yeah. We have a saying in our marriage, a lot can happen in a month. And then we changed it to a lot can happen in a day because we met and got engaged within about a month. So we were very, very quick. And so that was always kind of a joke, you know, well, a lot can happen in a month. You have no idea what's coming. You don't. And I don't like to label stuff as good and bad, you know, because you can usually look back on the good stuff and think that there was some problems with it. You can look back on the bad stuff and see that there was some good things with it. So it just is what it is. Just embrace it, learn from it, go forward with it, try to put on a smile, you know, and try to pivot in a little different thinking, whatever you need to do. You know, if it's forgiving someone or having more gratitude or just watching your thoughts, you know, different things like that that you can do to elevate your way of travel, your happiness, then it makes it for a lot better day and a lot nicer to be around with other
Yeah.
people too. So a lot can happen. So don't throw away the whole day just for a bad moment. It's a good life.
No, thank you. I think I'm going to not say anything else now because I don't want to ruin that note. So Heidi, thank you so much for joining me. I will have all of your links in the show notes, and we'll make sure that they go out on the Instagram feed and everywhere else as well. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Have you had a good time?
You have been a real treat. You have been a real treat. I've had a wonderful time. It's been wonderful to get to know you. And I just feel so much from you. And I appreciate you sharing and being vulnerable too. Like you were sharing about your childhood and the struggles you had. And as you talk to people and find people, we all have these backgrounds and these stories and our passions and where we are now because of what we went through. And so thank you for being real and upfront and honest about what you're going through too. I appreciate that. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, you're so welcome. Thank you.
I'll have to interview you now.
Yeah. Oh, no, anytime. Let me know when I'll totally be there. Yeah.
Yeah. I need to hear your lemon to lemonade story. It sounds like from where you've been to where you are now is quite the process. And so thank you for sharing it, but I need to hear it again. So that'd be awesome.
No, totally welcome. Thank you. And we'll definitely I'm going to have to get you back on the show again. So
well,
I'll hold you to that.
I would love to.
Thank you all for joining Heidi and I on this episode. As I said at the top of the show, please remember to subscribe and review. You can also click the share button in your player to send the show on to people you know too, especially if there's anyone you know that's been struggling lately. Please do share this episode. They really do need to connect with Heidi and also go check out the LemonAid Stand podcast as well, and send that on to anybody you know who's maybe having a tough time at the moment. We're now on Instagram, so if you haven't already, find the Tailoring Talk podcast and give us a follow for all the latest news on episodes and behind the scenes stories, mainly featuring my cats and dogs. The Tailoring Talk Bondathon is rumbling along. From Russia with Love will hit your podcast listening device next week. And I'm seeing Goldfinger for the very first time in my life this weekend. So I'm really excited. Heidi's looks completely shocked, but yeah, there's a story to that. Nothing pre-Brosnan, basically, Heidi.
That's when I started watching, was with Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, me too.
Him.
But I'd never really seen, I'd seen the other snippets as a kid, but had no appreciation for them. So that's really exciting. Make sure you do not miss a thing by hitting that subscribe button, and I will see you on the next one.